We've asked a few people to share stories from their specific contexts about prophetic moments in their congregational life. I hope that these stories evoke your own memories of moments in your congregation's life where you were making history instead of being pushed around by it. Remember, as Charlie Clements said, that these moments can be small moments if we have faith to know that every pebble creates ripples beyond what we can know or see.
Specifically in Prince William County, over the course of the last year, some of the strongest local legislation for enforcing immigration issues came up. And not only the question of were the police going to be doing some major racial profiling, because there was basically a invitation to the police to pull over anyone who happened to be driving while Latino and check their immigration status. It was pretty much the harshest laws of these kind in the country. So not only were these major legal questions just swirling about, but there was also the kind of hatred and vitriolic division in our community that you can almost not bear to witness. And in fact, our congregation was on the receiving end of a lot of hateful speech and hateful web postings because we have a Spanish language ministry and outreach in our congregation. It was vicious. When all this started to happen, as a religious leader, I, of course, said we have to do something. We have to have a voice. Our congregation has to have a voice. The religious community has to have a voice. Here's where the heartbreak comes in. As long as I, Reverend Nancy McDonald Ladd, the leader of the most liberal congregation in Prince William County, was leading the charge to have a religious response to this thing, people were not lining up to follow because we were perceived as so lefty that we couldn't have an authentic leadership voice, that people wouldn't rally behind us. So what I had to do was step back and call my colleagues and let them have the top line on the letterhead while I organized the whole thing, essentially. And all of a sudden you had 47 congregations and 47 religious leaders who were banded together and working, meeting with the Board of County Supervisors. We drafted a letter together that we sent to the press. We were doing amazing work. But the piece that's important for Unitarian Universalists is that there is a price we pay for being perceived as so far to one side, not just of the political spectrum, but of the spectrum of religious life. And the price we paid in Prince William County was that I couldn't lead it, and we couldn't lead it. And what we learned is that the only way to do this work is to have good relationships with our co-religionists, with our companions in the journey. So it was humbling.
You did lead it.
Yes, I led it from behind.
Wow, Sue says.
And to have the humility to know what our power is, and to allow someone else to have the top of the letterhead when that's going to make the change happen was illustrative for me.
Kate's my partner. I want to tell a story about when we brought Gordon Smith in. Remember that? Gordon Smith, some of you may know, is a Republican senator. And most of our people in our congregation are Democrats. But Gordon Smith had a connection with us in that we have a mental health group. And the woman in charge of it was talking to me about it. And she said, we were talking about Gordon Smith. Gordon Smith is interested in mental health because his son killed himself. And Gordon Smith wrote a book about it. And so I was saying to her one day, you know, we should bring Gordon Smith here and do a reading. And so they invited Gordon Smith and Kate. You took over the meeting that night. That's one of those things where, and then I left.
Well, being an organizer, I also knew that the Portland police had a problem on their hands, and that was they had a public relations problem. They were shooting and killing people who were mentally ill. Not the best response, right? So I saw this as an opportunity for bridge building. So what I did was called Rosie Sizer, who is Portland's police chief. She was new at the time. And then Gordon Smith brought them together for a panel discussion with a promise by Rosie Sizer that if we offered our church space and a public relations opportunity, would she ensure us that she would train her officers on dealing with mentally ill people. So we had the police, who typically didn't like us because we are oftentimes organizing protests. And then we had a Republican who didn't always see us as his constituency. And we were able to do a win-win all the way around, and it brought us together in new ways. So it was an opportunity to do public witness and to enlarge our sense of we.
I serve a congregation in the heartland, in the middle of the Midwest, and not even in a large city. I serve a congregation outside of Minneapolis, St. Paul, in the wilderness of suburbia. So a very different congregation than some of the others we've heard from in this convocation, a congregation that is and will be for the foreseeable future monochromatic in terms of race and culture. However, I absolutely believe, and I have to stay in the work I'm called to, that we can create there, and that we have created, a multicultural space in which any person who comes can breathe the air and know that that is free air, liberated and liberating air that they can thrive in, that we can all thrive in. That space is created with music and art, with spoken word and stories, with image, and with a spirit of love and hopefulness about not only the world we want to be, but that the world we are. It has to be recreated almost every day. And if we fail to recreate it, I know that I feel on Saturday night, preparing the service for the next day, a sinking sense of such deep irrelevance to the world in which our congregation and our movement is a part, that I'm not sure I can go on. And so it's a spiritual imperative to me to see beyond and through the white privilege, the acculturated privilege that my congregation and our movement hold, and say, how could I reduce this sense of impoverishment of spirit, mind, and soul, and enrich, deepen, expand? That sounds a little self-serving, but I do believe it serves the world. Our congregation is composed of people who probably grew up Lutheran or Catholic there in Minnesota, and we push the boundary, we risk the boundary every week of what they can sing and what their bodies can do while they're singing. Our music director, Dexter Cuneo, with Carol Coet at the piano, push, not even gently, but hard, to make bodies and voices do what they are designed to do, which is sing and love the world with gratitude. And people get mad about it, or they say, that's not the verse I learned, that hymn, or I can't move like that, or clap on the beat, or off the beat, or at all. But we say, oh, just do, and they will. That in itself is not going to restore a broken world or a broken person or a diminished congregation or movement, but it is a small, tiny piece. And if we fail to push in all kinds of ways, push our own selves beyond the boundary of who we are, we run the risk not only of failing ourselves and our future, but very specifically of creating a dangerous place in which to raise children. We need to sing every song of the human spirit, tell every story of the human journey in as many voices and languages as we can, no matter where we are, whether we're in downtown DC or downtown New York City or downtown Matamidi, Minnesota, where I am. We can do it. We have to do it. We can't not do it.
If you want more congregational stories, I urge you to visit the UUA website, where there's a large cache of them. And if you've got one to share, please send it to us. We'd love to share it with the other congregations.